Have you ever looked up your compatibility with your best friend or your partner and were just straight up confused? You probably think this doesn't describe us at all. We actually get along really well. You are made up of so much more than just your zodiac sign or your sun sign. So is your partner. And guess what? Your relationship with them is a lot more complicated than what most astrology websites will tell you. Turns out humans are much more complex than that. Today I'm going to share with you how you can look at your chart and your partner's chart and how astrology actually takes human complexities into account. How do we do that? By using an astrology technique called Synastry, we can pinpoint exactly how and where the people in our lives can push us to be our best or our worst. If you're new here, my name is Melissa, your local Capricorn moon. Welcome to my channel. Astrology is one of my passions, and in this video specifically, synastry and compatibility is one of my passions. And I create videos to share that with all of you, and hopefully today you can learn something new. There are a lot of future videos I would like to create on my channel, and synastry is one of the branches of astrology or the techniques that I'm really passionate about, and I would love to shed some background light on what that really is. Especially if you are a beginner and you've never heard of this before, I would like to give some insight first on what it is so that I can continue talking about it, because I am very passionate about learning about it and sharing my knowledge on it. So that's what today's video is going to cover. What is synastry and what are overlays? Have you ever wondered why a certain person in your life really makes you feel a certain way, or why or how they kind of put into focus different areas of your life that you've never really focused on before? You can look at your synastry overlays to see which part of your life that person is affecting the most and how they are affecting it. Are they helping you focus on it in a good way or in a bad way, or what's really happening that is much more specific to you and that person? Because sun sign compatibility, it's very surface, and it's not very unique or personal to you as an individual. And each person is so much deeper than that. And your natal chart or your birth chart really accounts for that, and it shows you exactly how complex you as a person can be, and because of your past experiences and your backgrounds and your own individual perspective. So all of that plays a part in your chart, and your chart really shows that. So what we're doing essentially in synastry is taking two people's birth charts and laying them on top of each other and seeing how and where each person's planets touch or form a relationship with the other person's planets. Essentially, it's just seeing how my chart communicates with yours, and if they overall disagree or if they agree, or it's a lot more complicated than that. You can have a good mix of cooperative and challenging aspects in your synastry with somebody else. Now, with overlays in particular, we're looking at what part of you do I light up and bring to focus, because different people help emphasize different parts of our lives and our personalities in different ways. And overlays can really show you how that is possible and the specifics of it, depending on which person you're dealing with. I want to point out first and foremost, before anybody ever jumps into the world of synastry, is that you need to know yourself and your chart first and foremost before looking at somebody else's and looking at chart compatibility. Why do I say this? Is because you need to know what your inclinations are first and foremost. What are your preferences? What do you lean more towards? What kind of relationships do you gravitate towards? And what would benefit you? And you want to do the same for the other person as well, of course, because they're also an individual, and it's important to get to know them first before analyzing any further their personality. And I also want to put a disclaimer that you should really get people's permission first before looking up their birth chart, because this is a lot of really private and sensitive information that you're uncovering about them and that you're discovering about them. And it goes really deep. Their birth charts really go super deep, and it can tap into places or parts of our lives that we ourselves might not even be aware of, or that we don't want anybody else to really know about. So It's really important, and I don't think it's stressed enough in the astrological community that we get each other's permission first before looking up each other's birth charts and really understanding or analyzing what we're really all about deep inside and what might not be so obvious on the surface. So yeah, make sure you get permission from the person that you are doing your synastry with, that it's okay for you to look up their birth chart and know their birth time and all of that, because some people wouldn't be okay with it. Also, mastering or getting a really good handle on the meanings of the houses, the aspects, the signs, and the planets first is really important before jumping into synastry, because you could jump into synastry and be faced with all these charts and tables and lines and symbols, and you have no idea what they mean. And that might be because you have not had yet a firm grasp on the different astrological symbols and planets and houses and aspects, because are all those are super significant and individual components of the synastry chart. So you're going to need to familiarize yourself really well first with those parts of astrology before looking into synastry. And a good way to do that is, again, to look into your own birth chart and really figure it out first before considering somebody else's and how your chart interacts with theirs. Again, I'm really, really excited to be talking to you today about synastry in astrology. It is going to seem intimidating at first because of how complex it is, and because of everything that you're looking at, and you kind of have to look at everything at the same time. But that's why it works. That's why it really paints an accurate and informative picture of two people's compatibility. And you don't have to, be an expert right away at synastry or chart compatibility right away. It is going to take some time, and again, I just think it's especially fun right when you start out, just because everybody wants to learn about compatibility and compare themselves with their crush or their partner. And that, to me, when I first learned about synastry, was just like, it was like a gold mine, and I was so excited to start out and start learning about it, because it was really fascinating. There was just so much to learn, and it was so there were so many little details that I could uncover about not just myself or my partner, but like how we intertwine and how our personalities mesh together, or whether they do or they don't. And that was just always really fascinating to me. And I hope you feel the same, and I hope you're just as excited as I am to learn even deeper compatibility techniques in astrology. So let's get started. If you have not been on astro.com yet, please go ahead and do that. And they have so many good free resources that are so informative and so very technical, and then there are some that are really good introductions for those who are beginners and just starting out. Definitely get on astro.com, because there's so many different kinds of charts that you can look up when further down the line, if you want to get even more advanced. Okay, so here I am on the homepage of astro.com, and where you want to go first to look up any chart is up here to free horoscopes, and click on extended chart selection. Now it says here for guest users or for visitors with a registered user profile. If this is your first time going on astro.com, you're going to want to go to the data entry page, which is where you can load all of the you can input your information, all your birth data information, as well as the partner. So I'm just going to quickly load up the information here. Hit continue, and then for your partner, you're going to need to add a second person. It can't be with yourself. So just click here under add a new person. Okay, so once you have two different people in the drop down menus here, so you have person 1, person 2, you can go down to chart type and select synastry chart. As you can see, there's so many different types of free charts available on astro.com, which is why I really like using it. They have transit charts, birth charts, synastry charts, solar return charts, and just so many different advanced techniques that you can really get into. But today we're just going to focus on the synastry chart. So make sure you have that selected, and down here they have so many different options as well for customizing your charts. But we're just going to focus on the main parts of the Synastry chart. So let's go ahead, and once you have that selected, just click here to show the chart. And it's going to take you to this page. This is a Synastry chart, so it's basically a bi-wheel chart. So here you can see two different wheels, right? So you have the outside wheel and then the inside wheel. The inside is the first person. So for my example, I have person 1. Person 1 is on the inside, and then it says here comparison with person 2 on the outside, which is the red planets. So their chart is on the outside and it's superimposed onto mine. And you can always like switch positions so that person 1 is instead on the outside and person 2 is instead on the inside. You can just switch the two so that you can see what it's like, vice versa. So yeah, this is basically the Synastry chart, and on the outside you can see all the signs, all the symbols for the signs. And again, if you're still new and you're still a beginner, it's really important to get to know and really learn and absorb all the symbolism of the signs and the planets and the houses first, before really diving into Synastry, because at first it can, upon first glance, it can seem intimidating and confusing. So it's really important to have your foundation first in astrology first before diving into compatibility techniques and all different kinds of charts, because there's so many different kinds of charts. Just understanding the foundations is really important first and foremost. So yeah, so the outside is the signs, and then on the inside, of course, are the planets. And yeah, like I said, it's important to know what the different symbols for the planets are. And yeah, so what we're basically looking at here are the overlays. And what the overlays are is where person 1's planets are falling into person 2's houses on the outside. So you can clearly see that person A's sun, this is the symbol for the sun, it's falling into person 2's 5th house. See, it's in the section of their chart that is marked by the 5. So it's in their 5th house. And person 1's Venus and Mercury, these are the two symbols for Venus and Mercury, are in the person 2's 4th house. This is the 4th house. So it's 2nd house, 3rd house, 4th house, 5th house. Just goes around the same direction. It always goes in the same direction. Now you can also see where person 2's planets fall into person 1's houses. If it's a little bit confusing to see in this view, you can always again switch the partners so that person 1 or person 2 is on the inside and person 1 is on the outside. So if you want, you can switch that right now. You can see what that looks like. So now it's switched. Now person 2 is on the inside with the blue planets, and then person 1 is on the outside with the red planets. And this way it's a lot easier to see where person 1's planets, the red ones, fall into person 2's houses. So there you go. That's how you look up your overlays. You just want to make sure you know which planet you're looking at, depending on the symbol that you're looking at. So I'm just going to put on screen right now a quick cheat sheet of the different planetary symbols so that you can familiarize yourself with them if you're still not quite solidified in your understanding of the symbology. So yeah, I'm going to put it up right now. And because on astro.com it doesn't necessarily tell you. If you look up your natal chart on astro.com, it will tell you what the different symbols mean, but in the Synastry chart it doesn't really leave room for that. So yeah, you kind of have to know already what the different symbols are. So just as a side note, whenever I look at Synastry, one thing that I notice straight off the bat whenever I look at a Synastry chart is conjunctions. And what conjunctions are, if you're not familiar, is where two different people's planets are really close to each other. As you can see, The blue planets are, as you can see, this person's Saturn is really close to this person's Pluto. They're almost at the exact same spot. And the closer they are together, the more powerful it is. Same thing here with this person's Moon and this person's Neptune. They're really close. And again, the same thing here with this person's North Node and this person's Uranus. Those form a conjunction. And the nice thing about the Synastry chart is that you can easily see where those conjunctions are occurring, and between what planets. So Pluto and Saturn here are conjunct in this person's 12th house, and the North Node and Uranus are conjunct in this person's 1st house. And it goes the other way too. These two planets are conjunct in this person's 4th house, and these two planets are conjunct in this person's 5th house. And another side note is that in looking at overlays, if you see an overlay such as this one where this person's planet is like right on the line of that 5th house cusp, right? What I like to do is just pretty much put it into that 5th house so that it's not confusing whether it's in the 4th or the 5th. You just put it straight into the 5th house, because that's just a rule that I like to follow personally. And that same rule applies in the birth chart, just in any astrology chart. I just like to place it into the next house already. Certain characteristics of it being in either the 4th house or the 5th house can apply, but I more so put it into just the next house that it looks like it's entering. So in here I would place it into the 5th house. So whenever you hear, or whenever you look up Synastry, or you hear me talking in my videos about different overlays, such as, Saturn in the 8th house or Sun in the 5th house, this is what I'm referring to, is just the overlays where the planet of one person is falling into the house of another person. And this is clearly what is being illustrated in those descriptions. So yeah, I hope that paints a better picture of what I am really referring to whenever I talk about overlays. And as I've described, the overlays are where one person's planets are falling into another person's houses. But what about the aspects, the inter-aspects in Synastry? Where do we find those? On astro.com, you can easily find the Synastry aspect table by looking at PDF additional tables. And that's going to take you to this page, basically. And again, if you're still learning, still new, just still a beginner, this is all going to probably look really confusing, but you can focus just on this table for now, because this is going to show you the aspects between your planets and the other person's planets. So all of these planets belong to one person, and all of these planets belong to another person. And you can see where this person's sun is being aspected by this person's planets. So over here, and again, understanding or knowing some of the aspects is pretty important before looking into Synastry. And again, a good way to really start understanding the aspects is to just examine your own aspects in your own chart. Get to know your own chart first, understand or get a feel of what a trine may present itself as, or what an opposition might feel like. It'll be a lot easier to apply that in Synastry and see how a Sun trine Mercury aspect feels like, or how that might play out. I don't want to get too in depth or too in detail with Synastry in this video, just because it's still just going to be a very introductory primer into Synastry, and I just wanted to show you the site that I use and how you can look up your own overlays in your own relationships. So that's basically the main point of this video. But if you're interested or curious about the aspects you have with your partners, you can always look up this aspect table by looking in at the additional tables option. But yeah, this is just probably going to be a video for another day, learning more about the aspects and aspects between natal charts, because that is another huge component of Synastry, along with the overlays. So yeah, that's basically how I look up Synastry, and I really like to use astro.com for looking up all of my charts, including my solar returns, my transits, my progress charts, and all of those different charts that are really awesome and fun and to learn about in astrology. I hope that helps in looking up if you're new to Synastry and you're interested in chart compatibility. I hope you found this video helpful and informative in somehow, in any way at all, and if you did, please give this video a thumbs up, and please stay tuned for a video that I plan on filming covering my favorite Synastry overlays and aspects. And again, like I mentioned earlier in the video, Synastry is one of my most favorite parts of studying astrology, so I really like talking about it. I really like sharing it with other people, and it's always good to learn, no matter what stage you are in learning about astrology, just to get a head start and learn some a little bit advanced techniques. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Just yeah, it's just I'm really passionate about sharing that information with you guys and just anybody who's interested in compatibility and learning about their relationships. So if this video has piqued your interest in learning possibly what my favorite or recommended Synastry overlays and aspects are, please stay tuned for that video. Please make sure you subscribe to my channel if you want to learn more about astrology, if you're open to learning about it, and remember to turn on notifications so that you're informed every time that I post. I have so much good content coming your way that I'm so ready to share with you, and I hope you stick around for that. If you're new to my channel, my name's Melissa, and I make videos especially geared for beginners. I try to make the content not just informative, but also really fun and easy to learn. Thumbs up if you found this video helpful or informative and you learned something from it. And I will see you again soon for another video. Thanks for watching.